In this tutorial, we'll be adding a light and create more leaves on the other trees. It is very simple to add lights in NUKE. Just add a blend matte right before the cards and change the surface blend to modulate. Apply shader like a diffuse shader to the geo by connecting it, and then add a directional light. Of course, the light direction should be the same as the sunlight, and you may want to make the light a little bit warmer. Add a normals after the particle emitter and change the action to build. You could apply a foam shader on some of the leaves in order to add a little bit of specks. By increasing the diffuse and reducing the specks, you could add some variety and add some punch on the highlight. If you want, you could even isolate some areas and apply different color or types of the leaves. In order to do that, display the point cloud node of the tree in the viewer. Change the node selection to the vertex selection. Select some area where you wish to change. Add a GeoSelect node and save the vertex into GeoSelect. Copy and paste one of the particle setups. You can change the color in the noise node, change the shape in the rotor, or change the size of the leaves in the particle emitter. And then connect to the GeoSelect. Click the Only Emit from the selected point. This is one of the ways you can control certain areas of the particles. Once we are happy with this tree, we can copy this setup and apply to other trees. Let's copy this simple setup and paste here. Display the point cloud and try to select the vertex points at another tree. Now we have a problem. Some other trees have too little points to make a proper shape of the tree. What we can do here is to grab a better shape of the tree, modify it, and combine it with other trees. Copy, paste, and locate it to a proper position and match the size. Now we can use them to generate the leaves. Just make sure to change the shape of the leaves in the rotor and color in the noise node so that this scene has a more dynamic look. After we finished most of the big trees, it's time to add leaves on the ground. It could be a map painter's job since they don't have to move, but we have already made some good leaves. Let's keep using the same technique to place some leaves on the ground. Display the point cloud generator, change the node selection to vertex selection, and select the vertex points where you want to place the leaves. Select an area and shift and drag if you want to add more areas. Shift and Alt and select an area where you want to deselect. Once you are done selecting, right-click and select the Create Group. You can bake the group by clicking the Bake Selected Group and connect to a particle emitter. If your client sent you an image with a simple drawing where they wanted to see the leaves, there is another way you can select the exact areas while looking at the image. First, draw shapes of the areas in a rotor. Create a new channel such as groundleaves.alpha and assign the area to the channel. Let's say the reference image is from frame 310. You should make a projection setup from that frame and connect to a ground geo. Yes, for this method, you need to have a nice ground geo. In the scanner and render, you need to change the render camera to UV. Inject the rendered UV into the same ground geo again and connect the ground geo into the particle emitter. In the particle emitter, select the channel you created in the rate channel and the leaves will be placed exactly where your clients wanted to see. There should be some changes when you connect a ground point cloud into one of these particle setups. Instead of getting an animation from the transform geo into the particle, we need to use a static frame of an animated geo into each particles. When you look at these animation curves from the transform geo, each particle we have made gets an animation from these curves, but with a random time offset. At this time, each particle will get a static rotation data from these curves with a random time offset, but no animations. In order to do that, just change the advanced option to constant. Since we are not using the animation from this transform geo directly, we can freely change it so that they look better when they land on the ground. And also we can animate the noise pattern so that each leaves on the ground would have a little bit of different textures from each other. There is one missing important element for the ground leaves. It's a shadow of the leaves. In NUKE 7, you can render shadow from this directional light. There is something you need to remember, which is the light will generate a shadow only where the light can see. Change the view to the light's point of view by pushing the control key in your keyboard and the camera icon. Enlarge the size and move the light so that we can see the particles. Connect the phone shader to the ground geo, open the lights property. In the shadow tab, turn on the cast shadow and assign the shadow channel to the mask.a, or you could make your own channel if you want. When you look at the scanline render, you will see it has an extra channel, mask.a, that works as a shadow path of the leaves. The last element we have to make is adding some falling leaves. Copy and paste one of the trees, point clouds, and particle setups. Open the particle emitter and change the emission rate to something more like 0.1 and keep the velocity 0. Change the start frame to 100 and the leaves will be showing up one by one from frame 100. You can add a particle curve and animate the alpha channel so that they fade in slowly. You can animate them by particle gravity, particle wind, and particle turbulence. When they land to the ground, their animation have to stop. You can use a particle bounce to make it happen. First, select the object to a plane. Place the plane where the ground is and match the size. Change the internal bounce mode to bounce. Reduce the bounce and maximize the friction. And the falling leaves will land nicely. Particles in NUKE work with channels. In this setup, the particle emitter and particle curve work with all channels. But this particle expression is assigning a new channel, B, to the only half of the particles. In this particle bounce, when the particle hits the ground, their channels get changed to C. Because below this particle bounce will work only channel A and B, the particles on the ground will not get affected by the particle wind. After you pre-rendered all of the leaves elements you created, you can start your usual compositing job with them. NUKE is an awesome compositing software that has a ton of features that you can make your scanline renders much more photorealistic. So, try to utilize them more as a compositor. rather than try to be a 3D artist in NUKE. This is Daniel Lee. Thanks for watching.